my name is Estanislao Moran. I'm from Argentina. I'm going to guide you through this tutorial. The tutorial is about technical operation of agricultural drones. So I hope you find it interesting. And let's start. Alright, the contents. We are going to walk by 6 steps. All of them are really important. Some of them are more important than others, but if we're gonna get good results with the drone sprayer, we must to follow all of them. Alright, let's start from the beginning. Here we got the cake with different importance of every step. The most important is the pesticide, the 40% of the total. That's because we need to prepare it correctly. We need to choose the right one, and we must to use the second dilution method. That's the way we must to prepare it. Then the rest of them is 15% each, but only by following standard operation we can successfully get the results. So we must to follow all the steps. Let's start from the first step and talk about basic spraying features. Alright, by flying the drone and spraying with the drone, the general features are the small quantity of liquid. That's because we use between 0.1 and 0.33 liters per acre. That's much less water than different methods like spraying by hand or manually. We use a lot more water in that case. Also the small droplets, this step is talking about the small, really tiny droplet. It's between 100 and 250 micrometers. That's really small. And the third one is a big distance between the nozzle and the crop. The difference between the manual application and the drone application is that nozzle is far away. It's further away. It's between 1.5 meters and 2.5 meters from the crop. That's a big difference. So let's continue. Alright, we're going to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of drone applications. Okay, the advantages. We got better adaptability to the crop. That means sometimes the countryside or the field has a different shape. Some of them are rectangular, some of them are square or triangular or different shapes. So with our drone, with the T30 or the T10 series, we can adapt that flight to the different shapes. That's a really good advantage. And the second one, and the most important one, is the safety. The safety is really important because we are not risking people or animals or vegetation flying a drone. So you can fly manually or automatic mode, but you're gonna be flying from far away from the drone. That's more safe. And the disadvantages of using a drone is like increasing the drift. While we are flying a drone, the drone is flying. The thing is, the faster the drone fly, the more drift we get, and the higher the altitude flying a drone, the more drift we get. So that's a disadvantage because the penetration in the crop is not the same. So we have to pay attention to set it up before flying. Intensifying evaporation as well. This topic is talking about sometimes we must to fly in a high temperature environment and low humidity. That means that the droplet is gonna evaporate faster. We must to take that in account and try to configure or set the drone up beforehand. That's a really important step. Let's continue. Pesticide selection. This is a really important point. Usually we need, for this kind of application, we need to use a water agent type. Otherwise, if we use powder-based pesticide, the nozzle or the pump will get blocked and the job is not gonna finish like that good. Yeah, we have to pay extra attention to what kind of pesticide we're gonna use. If we use, for example, herbicide, we must to pay extra attention to fly under 3 meters per second of wind. That's a really important one. Alright, let's continue. Alright, the low toxic pesticide. Because we got between 20 and 100 times ratio dilution. This is a really concentrate liquid. That's why we should use low toxic pesticide and avoid to using highly toxic pesticides. Could be really dangerous for the operator. Alright. Weather requirements. Alright. So the perfect case is to pay attention to the wind and the weather the day we are gonna fly or we are trying to operate the drone. Because generally more than 6 meters per second of wind is not a good environment to fly around. So we try to fly between 3 meters per second and 5 meters per second. And if we are applicating herbicides, we should try to fly in really small breeze, less than 3 meters per second, because it's really toxic and we could damage the crop around or the animals around or anything that could be standing around the field. Alright, let's continue. The wind direction always is in this kind of drone application. We have to step or stand upwind, always upwind. That's because the drone, otherwise the drone could spray us, and that's really dangerous. As well, we need to pay attention and mark a quarantine area, just to pay attention, because could be a different crop behind or could be animals. So we must to pay extra attention to that quarantine area and try to avoid it. Alright, let's continue. Temperature. Always is, we try to fly between 15 and 35 degrees. Flying or preparing pesticides below 15 degrees may cause chemical damage, and over 35 degrees that could be like, for example, the evaporation of the pesticide is faster, so we should fly lower, but always paying attention to the crop. Yeah, that's about the temperature. Alright, humidity and temperature, the combination of them is really important. Low humidity and high temperature will cause evaporation, so we have to pay attention for that. Yeah, The perfect scenario to fly is between 46 and 90% of relative humidity and between 15 and 35 degrees of temperature. That's a perfect scenario. Right, operation parameters. Right, the height. The more height we fly the drone, the wider it becomes. So we have to pay attention to the overlap between the width of one flight and the width of the next one. We have to pay attention to don't over fly the same field. So flying too low may result in higher inaccuracy. Flying too high would be that the pesticides not penetrating the crop. That's because could evaporate before, and that's something we have to pay extra attention all the time. Alright, the flight speed. The faster we fly, the wider the spread is. That thing. And the faster we fly, the less penetration we get in the crop, into the crop. So that's something we have to keep in mind before set the mission all the time. So the perfect speed is between 3 meters per second until 6.5 meters per second, not more than that. That's too fast. Alright. This is a parameter recommended. The height is between 1.8 and 2.5 meters over the crop. The speed between 3 and 6 meters per second. The root spacing is overlapping between one file and the next one. That's 3 to 6 meters, but it could be changed. It depends of the field. Always try to test in a small area before a big area task. Try to test how it's gonna work your setup, and then apply to the rest of the field. Alright. Resistance prevention. Yeah, this is talking about how the crops or how the different kind of plants they can adapt to the different pesticide. So if you use the same pesticide every time, every season, the crop is gonna get used to it. So we try to pay attention to change the pesticides from now and then. So in different seasons we try to use different pesticides just to keep in mind that the crop could adapt to it, and it's gonna be harder to combat them after. That's why that's how the nature works. Yeah. Alright. Well, this is talking about the mixing and rotating of the use of pesticide. That's something I was talking about before. The working environment. All the time we must to protect nearby plants. How we do that? Alright, just paying attention to the steps I was talking before. We need to make a mark quarantine sector or area before flying. That's how we protect all the plants around from the chemicals. For example, sometimes we got different animals nearby. For example, bees, could be fish ponds, and we can contaminate if we don't pay attention to all the steps. And we have to be really careful about the application and really professionals. So if you have any question for this, I would appreciate you ask me. It's my pleasure. So that's it. Hope you are doing well. Okay, see you next time.